Aloha, welcome to BeaDazzle, Hawaii. Today we are making a heart-shaped ear wire with a post back. And I'm going to be using sterling silver wire, 3.5 inches of 20 gauge wire for one side. And I've already pre-made a little dangle with ceramic beads, Swarovski crystal bead caps on a ball pin. So the first thing I'm going to do is use my 3-step plier to create the spiral and then shape my heart. So with the tip of my 3-step, I'm going to grab the tip of the wire and just curve around and release. Notice the loop is open. I'm going to keep it that way. I'm going to reposition and gently hold the plier and push my wire around, and you'll see it curve. I want about the distance to the loop to be the space of that tip of the plier to keep my spacing even. Now I'm just going around along the wire, twisting a little with my plier and pushing with my fingers. So I'm going about all the way around that first loop, and to adjust it I just put the tip back into the loop and squeeze a little to make it even. And there's my spiral. Later on I'm going to hammer and texture this, so I want my loops and wire to be pretty close, because once we hammer it's going to spread out. And then I'm going to go to the ruler. I want to measure from the top of that spiral 3/4 of an inch. And I'm using my thumbnail to mark that. I'm going to use a narrow chain nose plier and grab right at the tip of my thumbnail where I marked it. I'm going to bend my wire to create the point of the heart. Now that's a nice point, but I want to make it sharper, so I'm going to go all the way as far as I can go in. And to make it even sharper, I'm going to use the tip of my crimp plier, the front part, and grab the wire where it's bent and squeeze it together a little. And I use the crimp plier because it's more stable, it won't slip out, and it won't make marks along the outside edges. Then I'm going to take that loose end of wire and pull it back and out, and you'll notice the point is much sharper, and I'm actually going to bend this wire a little bit so that it gives a nice shape to the wire. Then I'm going to use the bottom edge, the bottom step of the 3-step plier, and close it on the loose end wire about the same height as the top of the spiral. Push the end over and around till it touches the plier again. Then I'm going to push that point up against the wire and make a temporary loop to give it the rounding it needs. Then, in order to get it evenly sized, I'm going to open up that loop again by gently using that step and opening it up. So it's about the same height. It's still a little tighter because I'm going to hammer it and it'll loosen up some more. I'm using my cute little anvil and a chasing hammer with a polished face. Chasing hammer has a domed head so that the edges don't mark your wire. Then I'm just going to pinch the top part of that new loop and take my chain nose plier and bend back that loose piece to make our post. And that's about a 1/2 inch for the post. And you'll notice it's about the same spot as the bottom of the spiral. So when we're hammering, you can bend this wire any way you want, gently, to keep the wires from crossing. I use that little hole to protect the post and keep it stable. And like I said, in order to hammer, so I'm not hammering the wrong thing, I'm going to pull my wire out so that the part I'm hammering is in the center of the anvil. I'm going to use the center of my hammer, and that flattens the wire, makes it shine, gives it a mirror finish. But now I'm going to turn it over and use the ball end of the hammer to texturize it. And what that does is give it an extra sort of faceted shine. Then I'm going to spin it around so that the other side of the heart is towards the center of the anvil. And I'm going to flatten that side. And then texturize it. And to stabilize that point and make it stronger, I'm going to put that towards the center and hammer that. Give it a little texture too, just for some shine. Okay, so I'm going to push the wire back. I actually have to crisscross it a little bit to get it in the right spot. Now I'm going to open this up some so it matches this area. But notice how this got really wide? So I'm just going to push it back gently. And this one we want a little wider. And putting a nice shape on both sides. And there's our heart post. So now to attach our dangle, it's wire wrap, so that's a closed loop. I just put it onto the post and guide it downward. Straighten it out. And then there's your post earring. Now this is a large heart, but we have samples of 22 gauge wire, the same length, but 22 gauge, 3.5 inches, makes a nice crystal strung earring. These are 3mm Swarovski crystals. And then this is also 22 gauge, but it's a 2.5 inch wire. So you can experiment with different sizes and different materials. Thank you for visiting BeaDazzle Hawaii.